I've been dealing with a lot of bullies, not just here in Tillamook, but nationwide. Nobody takes it as an emergency, which it is. The longer people procrastinate about finding out what's going on, the more goes on. I didn't go out looking for Wolnez to harm me over rumors. He chose to do that. I didn't go out asking people to harm me at any point over this shit. They chose to harm me. And I chose to speak out about it. And of course that involves satire and sarcasm. But, of course, you pretend that I'm retarded. While people with the resources to do these things themselves, if they were in this situation, while those people pretend that I have those resources and those abilities, while they treat me like I'm a fucking idiot instead of showing me how to do that stuff, or they want to volunteer to do things instead of, hey, how about find out what's going on before you go starting to volunteer things? So, there's a lot of bullies that I've had to deal with. Because of the assault by Officer Waylon Molotai in Colorado, and because of abuse by a lot of predators like Ted Bollinger and Tim Beeson, Jonathan Hickson, Kenneth Wilson, Leatha Plunkett. These are all people that chose to take advantage of me, chose to bully me, and they did it as a group. When they did wrong things, they just ganged up on me and took everything from me. Wasn't anything I could do about it except get taken advantage of. When Dawn Bird decided that she was gonna assault me, wasn't nothing I could do except get assaulted. That was 2 days before Natalie disappeared. I walked to Kayla Trujillo's house. I did that twice, once on the 15th to the 16th, and again on the 26th. Up until that point, I had been using a cane because of a foot injury. But I wasn't going to be able to make the walk and carry the backpack and use the cane. I had to endure the pain. It would have been worth it to stop the abuse. Now that was the first time. That was the 15th to the 16th. And I have video footage of that, by the way, on Facebook as well as on YouTube, as well as on flash drives. There's also the conversations between Kayla Trujillo and myself. that showed that I was walking to her house. Natalie and her friends were stalking my Facebook. They tried to pretend that because I went to Kayla Trujillo's house to get help, that it meant that I was walking right by her house. She leaves out the part about how I didn't know where the fuck she was. I never asked her where she was. I didn't care where she was. When I left Virginia, I drove 1,700 miles to get the hell away from her and her sister and their bullshit. Do you understand what that means? When you literally drive 1,700 miles to get away from somebody, you're done with their bullshit. Natalie Bollinger traveled 1,700 miles to get away from her dad in 2016. She traveled 1,700 miles to get away from her ex-boyfriend, Tim Beeson. People who actually abused her. She traveled 1,700 miles to get away from those predators in her life and to get away from the drugs and to try to sober up. That's why she went to Virginia. And in Virginia, her family made her feel like killing herself the whole time she was there. When she was calling me up telling me she was going to kill herself if I wasn't already on the road, that wasn't the first time. Natalie Bollinger often felt suicidal over how her family treated her. How they talked over her. About how when Ted was being abusive, they all just wanted to let it go. They just wanted her to let it go. They always just wanted her to let it go. They'll love her more if she just lets it go. Now Natalie's dead and her dad's still alive. If Natalie had understood that I was telling the truth about being abused, I like to believe that she would have put a stop to it. But you know what? Without a friend like me, she went right back to her drugs now, didn't she? She slipped right into that same old life that she used to live in. Now, just like Natalie Bollinger traveled 1,700 miles to get away from Tim Beeson and Ted Bollinger and Troy Bollinger, to get away from the drugs, I traveled 1,700 miles to see Natalie Bollinger at her request. And it was planned out with me, her, Maddie Boa. Actually, there was quite a few people involved on my end too, because it's not easy to be able to come up with the money to be able to make a trip like that. But the main four people was myself, Maddie Boa, Alicia Bollinger, and Natalie Bollinger. I've had to deal with so many predatory people. So many bullies who think it's okay to slander my name as an excuse to assault me. If she knew that the stuff happened and... What the hell's going on here?
You okay, John?
I'm still breathing, what's up?
Okay, we got a call from someone shot over here.
Nobody was shouting over here.
Alright.
This video's been going, looks like 10 minutes 47 seconds now. Okay. I don't know if you guys heard me screaming. Usually, like when there's screaming going on at a distance, my microphone doesn't pick it up. Somebody did pull up next to me and park. And they're also parked crooked, which I don't know what's going on about that. That was an officer who pulled up. Obviously. Oh, there they are. Ah, fuck, that hurts. I usually keep a close ear on screaming. See, in order for me to have a trauma reaction, I have to be enduring a traumatic experience. In order for me to be screaming and shouting and hooting and hollering, there has to be an actual real world reason. If I'm hooting and hollering because I was assaulted, it's probably because I was assaulted. Not because I'm rambling and crazy. Not because I am quote unquote mentally ill. There's a bunch of people that can verify how that's used, the term mentally ill. How it's used to harm us. And then, of course, as soon as we start saying that, we get to hear how the court definition is different from the hospital definition. I'm like, then why are you asking a hospital? The other thing is, if I'm trying to turn in an officer, and that officer takes me to the hospital and tells them that I'm schizophrenic, should they listen to the officer? Probably not. Are they going to listen to the officer? Yes. That's why we need a friend or family member when we go in. If they can find a way to cheapskate their way out of it, they will. As far as people yelling here, no, there's nobody here yelling. But there has been. There definitely has been in the past. We've got recordings right here on this channel of that happening. I finally got somebody to go in with me for once when I went in to turn in paperwork. Before, when I did all of that, I went and did the paperwork like I was told. The sheriff told me I go fill out the paperwork and then I bring it back to him. So I had to do it again. And this time, the clerk of the courts, Joan Hanson, told me that I need to fill out the paperwork and then I take it to the sheriff, and the sheriff is supposed to take care of it from there. So that's what I did. Now, Joan Hanson knew that I was trying to turn in Sheriff Scott DaCosta, his deputy at the time, Jared Hahn, as well as Deputy Cody Selhorst, and several others. They abused their power to prevent me from turning them in, to prevent me from showing evidence. And why were they able to do that? Because the Nebraska State Patrol kept on sending me to Scott DaCosta to have him investigate himself. It's a felony in the state of Nebraska. It's also against federal law. It's one of many abuses of power, and that includes use of physical and or chemical restraints. Why did the police do this? Because I was trying to turn them in. At the start, I was trying to turn in all of the predators who were harming me over Natalie Bollinger, who I drove 1,700 miles to see at her request. And she threatened to kill herself if I wasn't already on the way because her family was driving her to commit suicide. Yes, I tried to get help. Yes, there's people that I tried to talk to. They were too busy trying to give advice instead of listening to what's going on. Always the same line of questioning, and it all ignores what's going on. All the same types of stories. People want to tell you stories over and over again, especially poor people. Poor people want to tell you about how they understand, and they want you to understand too. They want you to understand their story. Well, your abuse is still going on, and theirs ended years ago. There are also different types of victims. I know a lot of women who were raped and or molested by their own fathers. And many of those women hate men. All men, because of what their fathers did. I also know a lot of women who were molested as children by their mothers, aunts, grandmothers, friends at school that were girls. And some of them talked to me about what they went through as well. That they understand women can be predators too. I've had a lot of women explain to me that the reason that women lie when they get busted doing something wrong is because it's the only defense they have. And the reason that they always play victim after doing that shit is because they know that they've been able to antagonize you, and now they can play themselves off as a victim. And it's not because they hate you. It's because they don't want to get in trouble. And a lot of women are afraid that after they try to destroy a man's life because they were angry, that he will retaliate physically, and many men do. But those as we've gotten to see, are primarily domestic relationships. Who's most likely to kill you as a child? Your mother. Who's the second most likely person to murder you as a child? Your father. And violent crimes against children, violent deaths against children, 62% of the time it was a parent. Women are five times more likely to physically assault their children. They're 30 times more likely to initiate physical assaults against their spouse. We've got lots of services that are set up to protect women as victims of domestic abuse. And if they're not victims of domestic abuse, they can just pretend they were. It's good enough. The telephone that I had that was busted, it was a present for my birthday. There's people here at Safeway, and people all over the place, matter of fact, that I've shown, hey, this is the actual messages between Natalie and I. This isn't some dummy account some asshole made. People were willing to do a lot of stuff to try to impress Natalie. Where they screwed up was threatening to kill me and my friends and family. They should have just left me alone, because you know what? After I was shanghaied into going all the way to Virginia because Natalie was going to kill herself over Tim Beeson and her father and her mother and her sister. While I was going through my own personal hell, I made sure that I got there so that she wouldn't kill herself. I knew it wasn't going to be a rodeo. She'd already let me know that they had pushed her to the point that she wanted her life to end. No matter what went wrong, they always blamed everything on her. It was always her fault because heroin, heroin, heroin. She's like, it's not always over heroin. Sometimes Tim won't take no for an answer. Sometimes Ted won't take no for an answer. Sometimes Troy won't take no for an answer. And the family just covers it up. When I was in Virginia, I remember a phone call with Rochelle Shelley Campbell, where Natalie Bollinger was trying to encourage Miss Shelley to move to Virginia. This was at the same time, literally the same night, matter of fact, that Natalie and Alicia Bollinger let me know that they were trying to look for an apartment for me there in Virginia. That they were really wanting me to move to Virginia. That was right before Hurricane Matthew, matter of fact. When people see that picture that I took of Natalie and Alicia, they literally drove me to that location. They wanted the picture. It wasn't a very good phone. I've been bullied from one end of the country to the other. I've had to try to rely on and depend on drug addicts. I've had to deal with people pretending that I'm not disabled just because it doesn't fit the narrative they want to sell, and that includes law enforcement. I can't possibly be victimized. That would mean they have to do some work. And now that I'm absolutely petrified of them, now they're going to pretend that they want to be helpful. Well, I need somebody there for my safety, and the situation needs to be recorded by me. Because I don't have the money to survive on, let alone jump through all of these hoops, hire a lawyer, and pay for all of this fucking evidence that the cops have, such as their body cameras. When the body cameras show that someone is being victimized, those body cameras need to be seen. My public pretenders intentionally withheld evidence. They intentionally played head games, wasted time. They were aware of the consequences for me, and they just simply did not care. They got paid either way. It didn't matter if I sat in jail for days and days and days, or weeks or months. It didn't matter how many clerical errors were made in order to assist the Bollinger family with getting away with their crimes. And why did they do that? Why did the police do that? Because see, what you're not paying attention to here is that this evidence that I've been showing on my channel, literally for years, flies right in the face of what my predators pretended. What did my predators pretend? Like I stalked them. Much as Natalie Bollinger went all the way to Virginia to get away from her father, to get away from her uncle, and to get away from Tim, to get away from the drugs. I drove 1,700 miles to get away from Natalie Bollinger and her sister and their drug-induced fucking bullshit. And when I spoke up about it, they were even more embarrassed. There's another woman who showed a prime example of that on my channel. Her name was Ryan Ingersoll, and she's dead as well. Ryan Ingersoll was smacking around two girls that weren't hers. And she wasn't smacking those girls because those girls were horribly behaved. And mind you, those girls were horribly behaved. But given the circumstances, I say they have every right to be. I just think that it should have been directed in a way that was more geared towards getting them safe than making them more unsafe. Ryan Ingersoll was beating on them because she missed her two sons and because she was drunk all the time. I couldn't stand her hitting them kids, and I couldn't stand the cops not listening. Now, Ryan Ingersoll wanted to pull the us girls gotta stick together bullshit, and it didn't work. Thank goodness those two girls got into a good foster home. A foster home so nice that they wrote a letter to the judge saying they didn't want to go back to their mothers. Rayanne Ingersoll was eventually charged with child abuse, but they dropped the charges. They had to, because if they didn't drop the charges, if they followed through and charged her with the crimes that she did in fact commit against those children, they would have had to drop the charges against me. Now, Rayanne Ingersoll admitted, even though I had to literally plead guilty to crimes that I did not commit in Rawlins, Wyoming, in order to get a computer full of evidence back that was illegally stolen from me. Yeah, that's right. I had to plead guilty to crimes I did not commit in order to get the evidence that was on those computers, the evidence that showed that I was the victim in this situation, that I was literally victimized by the police and by the courts. Now, why did Rayanne Ingersoll say that she did it? It's recorded on this channel. Because she was mad at me. She lied because she was mad at me. Why was she mad at me? Because I was telling on her for hitting them kids. I didn't want to do that. Especially not there, where them kids were miles away from anybody that they knew. It was just me and Rayanne. And those cops were not nice to me. In court, they even tried to make up a history for me. That's right. They had a whole list of stuff that I'd never done that they were claiming that I'd done in court. They were claiming this stuff to try to prevent me from getting bail. Now I had to stop them and say, hey, guys, here's the thing, is that you're saying that I was busted shoplifting in 1983. For most of 1983, I was only 2 years old. It's 2004. I was born in 1980, but I was born in October of 1980. When I brought that up, they had to drop everything. As far as them pretending that I was this horrible monster that they had literally had to manufacture. The district attorney in Carbon County decided to manufacture an arrest history for me to try to prevent me from making bail and showing evidence. When they realized they weren't going to get away with it, they called the services, such as the churches, and told them not to help me. That's right, folks. The police, knowing that I was a disabled and at-risk adult who had been trying to turn in child abuse, told churches, as well as hotels with vouchers, not to help me. I was told by hospital staff, Carbon County Hospital, that the only thing that I could do, if I wanted to pretend I was suicidal, then they could give me a warm place to stay for the night, and there was a guy named Mr. Biggs that would come talk to me, and then they'd release me. Well, it took several days for that to happen. Meanwhile, I was locked in a room by myself with no one to talk to. I literally yanked wires out of the wall there and wrapped them around my neck. You tell me to go to the police for help. Are you fucking kidding me? Ran Ingersoll pretended that I broke something that I didn't, because she was angry with me for trying to turn her in. And yes, she admitted it. Yeah, it's on this channel. Yes, it's recorded. There's also a lot of recordings that are not on YouTube. It takes time to be able to do that, and it takes computer access. And I have to use my computer access for other things, like going through the evidence and trying to get it to somebody who will listen and actually help to speak up for me. I got a few of these pans here. If I stacked a few of them together, I could use the radiant heat and probably get a lot more warmth out of this here alcohol stove I made. These are on sale right now for $1.50 each. I could probably buy 2 or 3 more, I guess. Anyway, I gotta try to conserve battery and plug it in. The 2 people that are trying to help me when they have time, they're not able to make much time. And a lot of the things that I tell them, I have to tell them more than once because they didn't quite understand it or didn't hear it the first time. I try to enunciate properly so that people do understand me. But I don't have any teeth. And sometimes my words don't come together right. There's also a lot of predatory individuals who tried to pretend that I said things I didn't. Tried to reinterpret my words, and I was never allowed to defend myself against those accusations, ever. Well, you pretend that I'm a bad person because I try to get help stopping systemic abuse that I have to endure. When it happens to others, you tell me just to mind my own business. You don't get to in that situation. There's no such thing. There are a lot of places that have laws. Laws that show that innocent bystanders can be arrested for not turning things in. For example, a lot of states, if you witness a murder, it's a felony not to turn in the murder. In some states, it's a felony not to turn in child abuse. For me, a lot of the people who found out about me through web sleuth groups wanted to pretend like they were going to help me, but every time it wasn't them helping me, it was them doing what everybody does. Assume I'm retarded, but I don't know what's going on, and I need them to give me advice and guidance. That's not it. When people ask me who we need to go to, I do have to tell them I don't know, and that's not because I'm not sure who it's supposed to go to. I've already tried going to the people it's supposed to go to, and I had to go alone. So I need somebody who can sit with me for a good 8 hours and make phone calls all day long with me. Record the phone calls. Not one phone call every 6 weeks with a different random person, each of whom only knows a little tiny bit of what's going on. Now, there's supposed to be a case manager to help with that, but the case managers aren't helping with that. They don't care that I'm being abused. They want to give me instructions on going back to the cops. I went to the cops. By the time situation with Wolnez come around, I already knew I couldn't go to the cops because I'd tried. Andrew Wolnez was not my first stalker here in Tillamook. He was not the first person to assault me. He wasn't the first person to throw stuff at my vehicle. He wasn't the first person to hit my vehicle or kick my vehicle. No, that was Molly. The first week I got here, she was doing that shit. She got psycho quick. As soon as Tom said, you know what, dude, she's driving me nuts and I'm scared shitless of her. Please help me get away from her. She started doing the nuttiest shit she could. And then when she realized that she'd been recorded being a fucking nut job, she started playing victim. Now, how much fun is this, being a guy in the United States? We already know that looks have more to do with whether people believe you or not. They have more to do with it than anything else. That's why people say even if you're ugly, if you got to go to court, wear a suit. Makes it look like you're taking it seriously. Make yourself look presentable. What if that's not the reality of your situation? The other thing is you can't do shit from jail. When you're called mentally ill, you're not allowed to take part in your defense. You're not allowed to call witnesses. You're not allowed to be fucking heard. Your First Amendment rights no longer exist the moment you're called mentally ill. When I show people the evidence, every time I get to see in people's eyes where they have this eureka moment, like, holy shit, they actually did this stuff to him. Yeah. Did you think I was kidding? The lady that was trying to help me, she was telling her coworkers, one of whom was actually there. She's going to write a letter about it. But she was telling her coworkers, she said, yeah, after Wolnez threw that cup of ice cream all over his face, it was vanilla ice cream, got it all over his car and got it all over his phone and got it all over Sean. And what did Sean say? I look good with white stuff on my face. Yeah, that's exactly what I said. See, while he's allowed to assault me over and over and over again, and he's been allowed to threaten, harass, and intimidate me, since September of last year. September, October, November, December. It's now January. Far as I know, he has not messed with me in 2 days. I do know that I've had to deal with some of them youngins from the Tillamook Sporting Goods parking lot driving by and being loud. They haven't used the bullhorn, or they didn't use it yesterday anyway. It's just a couple of people randomly screaming, and of course, I'm trying to save the videos for important stuff. One of the ladies that works at Safeway already wrote something out for me to take to court in case she has to work. Two other ladies are going to, I guess. Another one, her name's Miriam. She doesn't live here anymore, though. But her sister said she'd give Miriam my number and my email. Miriam was there for the first assault. She said she'd be fine with helping to turn it in, but with her moving, you know, I had to try to get somebody to turn it in with me. If somebody goes in by themselves, the cops will tell them, oh, well, you can't turn something in for somebody else. The thing is, I need somebody to go in with me so that my voice will get heard. The first thing a police officer should be doing, or any emergency personnel should be doing, when a victim is telling them what's going on, is stop and listen. The more you interrupt them, the faster they're going to talk, and the louder they're going to get. The louder you get, the louder they're going to get. The more you interrupt them. The key is not to continually interrupt the victim, because then you're getting it confused. And the more you interrupt them, and the earlier you interrupt them, when they're trying to tell you what's happening, the more confused you're going to get. They know important details, and they're trying to tell you those important details, and your quick fix that you thought of is not the quick fix that you think it is, and you should probably listen to the victim. Chances are pretty good they don't have anybody else to go to. If you blow them off, they'll try to find someone else to go to. Somebody who's called mentally ill, it is literally never, ever safe for them to go to the police alone. The same thing goes for a poor male or a homeless male. It's never safe to go to the police by yourself. You don't matter. You're easy to roll through because you don't have the money for a real lawyer. So if they just want to bully you and then arrest you for being bullied, they can do that. And your voice will never be heard. And if there's a really fucked up situation where the media is involved, the media is just automatically going to paint you as mentally ill because you're homeless. You must be a druggie. You must be a predator. So I got to make a bully video. I got to Now that I got two different things in my phone so I can record offline, that's what I gotta do. I gotta make one video where I'm gonna have to pause it a bunch, obviously. I'll make one video where I go through and show as much of the stuff with Wolnez as I can find, as well as other bullies. And post them up. I already sent them to a couple of people. Maybe I'll be able to pull those ones up. I might be able to pull it up that way. And as long as I don't spend like a whole minute trying to find the next video, which sometimes it takes 15 to 20 minutes to find them, my phone shouldn't turn off. And as long as I have the other phone ready and handy, I should be able to record the video, pausing in between while I'm scrolling. And that way it's just the evidence of the actual abuse from where it started to the very end. You'll get to see how much abuse I've endured. And it's been a lot. Well, no, you're not going to be able to see how much abuse I've endured because there's a lot that wasn't recorded. Because I didn't have a lot of battery on my phone and I was trying to conserve it for if I was assaulted or if I was under threat of being assaulted. But sometimes you don't see your predators coming. As soon as somebody has assaulted me, I have to record every time I see them. As soon as someone has gotten up in my face and been confrontational and threatened me with violence and tried to incite violence against me by others through that slander, yeah, I have to record when I see them. As soon as I see them, I'm going to start fucking recording. With Wolnez, he came up in the middle of videos that I was recording. Like, in the middle of the video, you can hear Wolnez riding by, throwing a rock and talking shit. You can hear him screaming to people, pretending that I'm a pedophile, like he was doing in the very first fucking interaction. There was no need or reason for him to harass me, threaten me, attempt in any way, shape, or form to intimidate me or assault me. He just wanted somebody to hurt that he thought he could get away with hurting. And you get to see how I went to many people. I was told by Malcolm, the store manager here, as well as Krista, as well as Miriam, as well as Joe and Candy. These are all managers telling me, hey, when that stuff's going on, come in and let us know. Malcolm said to go inside and let someone know. I let all those people know. I also let Paul know and Miranda. And Michael sometimes. Back in the bakery. And Kristen and Christine. There's a lot of people that work there that I let know what was going on. As long as I let someone know what was going on, but what I didn't have was a friend or family member to call with me and say, hey, this is actually happening. Now Miriam, she could have called with me that day. And I was hoping she would. Something came up. I don't remember what it was, because it wasn't something came up on my end. She did try to understand the safety issue with the alcoholics and the church and the drug addicts and how they go to the church and how it doesn't keep me safe. Yeah, a lot of the people who eat the food at those churches are going to protect the people that feed them. Just stands to reason. That is a reasonable thing to do. But it also depends. What are you protecting them from? Did they do something wrong and you're protecting them from consequences? Or is somebody trying to harm them? One of the ladies today, she told me, 99% of the homeless people, if somebody did something, they'd stop it. She's right. She's absolutely right. Those very same people in my videos, when I've been harmed, just talking about it or ignoring it as best as they can. Just because people will do that for you doesn't mean they'll do it for me. I haven't had to deal with Andrew Wolnez for 2 days, but I did have to deal with him for 5 months. Now, there's a situation that happened in October of last year where them youngins were chucking stuff at my vehicle, including things that were blowing up. One of them incendiary devices I took in and gave to the people at Safeway. I call it an incendiary device because that's what they write it down as when they charge somebody with it. In reality, it was a firework. It all started over a guy named Christian Alexander Sharrow. He was threatening to kill them youth down at the Tillamook sporting goods parking lot. Now, don't get me wrong, them youngins are not well behaved. They already bully the homeless whenever the fuck they want with impunity, and the police will make every excuse not to investigate. Just like they did with Molly, which resulted in 6 weeks of Molly. 6 weeks. Just because the cops wanted to act bored, try to pawn it off on somebody else because they were bored. They didn't want to deal with no hobo bullshit. They might get a call from somebody who actually matters. Some of my biggest bullies have been the police. Being talked over. Being mistreated. When I go in good confidence to try to turn in crimes committed against me, they want to either pawn me off on someone else or they want to get a real shitty fucking attitude with me. As threatening and intimidating as fucking possible. What did the cops do when I was trying to turn in abuse against those children that were taken away by the state anyway, weren't they? Those cops lied to me, bullied me, stole my evidence, and went out of their way to guarantee that I would lose all of my belongings. Ran Ingersoll, when she found out about that, she was fucking pissed at them. That's when she said she was sorry that she did it because she was angry. Of course she was angry. She didn't want to have to pay the piper. She didn't want to go to jail for child abuse. Just as Natalie Bollinger didn't want to go to jail for her drug use. But it happened anyway. Same thing with Alicia Bollinger and Ted Bollinger. Meanwhile, one of the ladies here who works at the Safeway, she got to look at some of my hospital paperwork, where it shows that they took a blood test and it showed that I didn't have any drugs in my system. No drugs. In my court paperwork, same incident. The police claimed that I was on drugs. Also, the evidence is in the fact that they were both on the same day. The hospital paperwork verifies the police were there. The police paperwork that they put into court verified that there was a hospital involved in it. There was only one hospital I was at. On each of these particular days, only one hospital I was at. When I was in Carbon County, the one hospital I was at was the Carbon County Hospital. In each and every one of these situations and scenarios, these officers were well aware, because I repeated myself about how I was trying to turn in the Bollingers, about how I was being abused, about how my friends and family's lives were at risk, about how they were getting a hold of me and telling me that they were being threatened, including by police officers. They left out that I spoke to them about Waylon Lolatai, and that literally I told the truth about everything. What did my public pretenders do? Procrastinated, wasted time, dragged it out. They did everything that they could to assist the prosecution and assist the police. And they still couldn't frame me for that bullshit. Repeatedly, police have assaulted me and tried pressing charges against me for assault and had to drop the charges over and over and over again. Do you know why that is? It's because the body camera evidence shows that I was the one assaulted, that I was telling the truth, and that police turned their ears off. No matter what I said, they had some witty comeback, some quick quip, some sarcastic or rhetorical bullshit. But as far as taking the situation seriously, no, they'd rather commit felonies. And that's exactly what they did. That's exactly what they did in Rawlins, Wyoming. And their friends at the hospital helped them to do it. Their friends at the churches helped them to do it. Meanwhile, the only friend that I had that I could try to turn anything into was Ryan Ingersoll. And why was I having to deal with the police and their abuse? Because I was turning in child abuse by Ryan Ingersoll. At no point in time did the police give a shit what was really going on. If I told them there was evidence that myself or other people were being abused, they did everything that they could to take that evidence away from me and prevent me from having it. Prevent me from having access to it. Prevent me from showing it. And they got away with this overwhelmingly because I had to go in by myself to turn it in. And because I was unable to record it. In many of these situations at the very beginning, I didn't even know how. Laura Nelson had to teach me how to take screenshots. And she didn't do that until after Natalie was dead. Anyway, we'll see what time it is. It might be too late to get a coffee. I hope it's not. I hope I don't get fucked with. Them youngins have been fucking with me since... Well, see, they were messing with me real heavy after Christian threatened to kill them. And then when Wolnez started pulling his bullshit, they let him do his stuff, and they continued throwing stuff at me. Screaming racial slurs out the window. Pegging my vehicle with stuff. The most recent incident was only yesterday. Sorry, day before yesterday. Now the thing with them youngins, well, Nez, the first time that he harmed me was over them youngins who have been harming me. Them youngins that the police wanted to ignore. Everybody in town knows that those youth do horrible shit to the homeless. That they're relentless fucking bullies. They also know that the police aren't doing shit about them. That goes for all of the people down there at those businesses too. From Tillamook Sporting Goods to the smoke shop there. They know them youth are tearing up the parking lot. They know they're fucking with homeless people and others. It's not like it's a big secret. $7:45. Well, it is too late to get a coffee. But it's not raining at the moment, which is kind of rare for right now. And I need to piss like a racehorse. And then I gotta plug in my phones and try to charge them up a bit. And then I gotta show the abuse by Wolnez in one video. I have to try to make it short, so it'll basically just be Wolnez to Wolnez to Wolnez. And then I gotta make one similar for the police, and that one's gonna be a lot more difficult. Because although Wolnez has only been doing this about 5 months, the police have been doing it for 10 months longer, just here in Tillamook. When you're a homeless, disabled man, this is what you can look forward to. The help that you get is being sent around in circles to lots of services that get your tax dollars for doing jack shit. Meanwhile, it costs you your disability money to run around all these places. It also costs you time, physical pain, only to get talked over and treated like you're not important. The reason they say to go to a friend or family member is because it's assumed that a friend or family member would give a shit enough about you to know what's going on. You know what you're doing? Or you know what you're not doing while you're busy giving advice? You're not busy finding out what's going on. When you're asking questions, is that about you or is that about the victim? It's about you. Because it's not about their story or the important details. Not to you. To you, it's about your questions, your curiosities, no matter how compulsive they may be. The problem with those compulsions is that your questions are not their story. It's little bits and pieces and clips that you want to know. Well, some of those are complicated situations. Oh, there's my goddamn cane. Oh, Let's see if I can get in there without pissing myself. I can hope that the police did their job and went and picked up Walnez and arrested him to prevent him from harming me. So there are actual consequences for him, so that he doesn't think that he can just harm me with impunity. The problem is, police didn't do that with the Bollingers. They didn't do that with Molly. They still haven't done that with these racist youth down here. I've explained that because of the safety issues with the police, that I have to record it and post it online. And of course, people always act surprised when they find out this shit's posted online. I'm doing everything that I can to comply as best I can. The thing is, the police should have worked with me instead of against me from the very start. I mean, the stuff that's happening to me and many others out here is resulting in dead bodies. They'll show up for Safeway and somebody who stole a candy bar. That's because Safeway is a corporation and they got money. When they ask you trick questions like, did you turn it into the police? Well, I tried to turn it into the police. Oh, well, that means no. No. It means I wasn't allowed. And that's never okay. I got a piece on that in the video.